Elon Musk isn't the first person to treat the world like a private sandbox. Long before the 401k, the stock market, or even the concept of the middle class, there was Jakob Fugger. He was the man who legalized greed, bankrupted kings, and funded a religious war just to collect a 50% commission. He was the richest human to ever walk the earth, controlling 2% of Europe's entire GDP. If you think modern billionaires are powerful, you haven't seen anything yet. From the silver mines of the Alps to the boardrooms of SpaceX, this is how one man's bank account changed the course of Western history. We begin in 1459 in the free imperial city of Augsburg, while the rest of the world was still trapped in the rigid hierarchy of feudalism, where your bloodline determined your worth. Jakob Fugger was born into a family of weavers who had realized a secret. Gold doesn't care about your last name. Jakob wasn't supposed to be the family's champion. He was the youngest, destined for the priesthood. But when his older brothers failed to expand the business, he was pulled from the monastery and sent to Venice. This was his Silicon Valley. In Venice, he learned double-entry bookkeeping, the source code of modern capitalism. Just as Fugger left the comfort of Augsburg to learn the cutting-edge financial systems of Venice, a young Elon Musk left South Africa for Canada and then the US, recognizing that to change the world's finances, you have to be at the center of where the code is written. Both men shared a common trait early on. They viewed money not as something to be saved, but as a tool to be wielded. Fugger's first massive move was not in banking, but in resources. He realized that if you own the silver and copper mines, you own the kings who need those metals for their coins and cannons. He began lending massive sums to Archduke Sigmund of Tyrol. When the Archduke couldn't pay back the cash, Fugger didn't take land. He took the rights to the silver mines. He vertically integrated. He owned the mines, the smelters, and the distribution networks across Europe. He created a closed-loop economy where every ounce of silver mined added to his personal ledger. This is the Tesla and SpaceX blueprint. Musk doesn't just build cars. He builds the batteries, the charging networks, and the software. Like Fugger's silver, Musk's vertical integration in lithium and orbital delivery creates a moat that competitors find impossible to cross. They both realized that controlling the raw supply chain is the only way to dictate the final price of the world. By 1519, the Holy Roman Empire needed a new leader. The two candidates were Charles V of Spain and Francis I of France. This wasn't an election of the people, it was an auction. The 7 prince-electors were openly for sale. Jakob Fugger stepped in and bankrolled Charles V with 850,000 florins. A sum so vast it's nearly impossible to calculate in modern terms, roughly $100+ billion in purchasing power. Because of Fugger's checkbook, Charles V became the most powerful man in the Western world. Jakob famously wrote to the emperor later, "It is well known that your imperial majesty could not have gained the Roman crown without my help." Musk's influence on modern geopolitics through Starlink and his acquisition of X, formerly Twitter, mirrors this kingmaker energy. When a single individual's private assets can determine the communication of a nation at war or influence the global town square, they have moved beyond being a businessman and have become a sovereign entity. How did Fugger stay ahead of everyone? He created the Fugger Zeitung, the world's first private intelligence service. He had couriers in every major port and capital city. He knew about a shipwreck in the Atlantic or a peasant revolt in Germany days before the kings did. This information alpha allowed him to short markets or buy up commodities before the price moved. Musk's obsession with X is the modern Fugger Zeitung. By owning the flow of real-time information, he gauges global sentiment, market trends, and political shifts instantly. In the financial world, whoever sees the data first wins the trade. Fugger used letters. Musk uses a global digital feed. In 1516, Jakob built the Fuggerei in Augsburg, the world's first social housing complex. To live there, you only had to pay 1 Rhenish guilder a year, about $1, and say 3 prayers a day for the Fugger family. It still exists today. This wasn't just charity. It was a masterstroke of reputation management and social stability. It ensured the local workforce was loyal and that the rich Fugger wouldn't be eaten by the poor during a riot. While Musk hasn't built a Muskerei for the public yet, his starbase in Texas and his vision of a Martian colony represent a similar attempt to architect human society. Both men recognized that to stay at the top of the financial pyramid, you must provide a vision, or a home, for those at the bottom. In the 16th century, charging interest, usury, was a mortal sin. It was the ultimate destructive force in the eyes of the church. Fugger, however, needed interest to run his empire. He successfully lobbied Pope Leo X to change the rules, arguing that interest was a fee for labor and risk. By doing this, he effectively legalized modern banking and decoupled Western finance from religious dogma. Musk's push into cryptocurrency and his defiance of traditional SEC regulations mirror this disruption. He is constantly pushing against the priesthood of modern finance, the regulators and the central banks, to redefine what value is and how it should be traded. Fugger's money wasn't always constructive. He funded the sale of indulgences, the very thing that triggered Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation. His bank took a 50% cut of the money people paid to buy their way out of purgatory. This greed directly led to a century of religious wars that bankrupted nations and killed millions across Europe. Every visionary has a shadow. Musk's rapid disruptions, from AI warnings to market-moving tweets, create volatility that can destroy the savings of retail investors in an afternoon. When a private individual's bank account is tied to the stability of the social order, their bad days become the world's bad days. Jakob Fugger's biggest weakness was his biggest client, the Habsburgs. By the end of his life, he was so deeply entangled with the Spanish and Austrian crowns that their bankruptcy would mean his end. He had reached the final level of finance, where the lender becomes a slave to the debtor because the debt is too large to let the debtor die. Musk's wealth is heavily tied to the stock valuation of Tesla and government contracts for SpaceX. He is too big to fail in the eyes of the US government regarding space travel and satellite infrastructure. This creates a precarious balance, where the billionaire and the state are locked in a mutual hostage situation. Jakob Fugger died in 1525, the richest man to ever live, adjusted for GDP. His wealth was approximately 2% of Europe's entire output. He died without a direct heir, leaving his empire to his nephew. The Fugger name eventually faded, but the system he built, the global bank, the vertical monopoly, and the political lobbying, became the DNA of the modern world. Whether it's 1526 or 2026, the story is the same. Finance is not about the numbers on a screen, it's about sovereignty. When a private citizen can fund an emperor or a rocket to Mars, they are no longer just a banker or a CEO, they are a new kind of king. Jakob Fugger proved that gold could beat bloodlines. Elon Musk is trying to prove that innovation can beat borders. Jakob Fugger showed us that if you control the money, you control the history books. Elon Musk is currently writing the next chapter. The question is, will these private empires be the architects of our future or the cause of our next great collapse?